supposedly
AVS
slated for
Media
better
Demo.
things in the department. The outside door to the kitchen was ajar. I pushed it all the way open. The doors of every house have a unique sound when they
AVS
open and
Media
close.
Demo.
This one whined like an old man. It was pitch black in the house. Eerie. The wind was sucked
AVS
through the
Media
open door,
Demo.
and I could hear something rattling inside. "We didn't turn on the lights, sir," one of the uniforms said from behind me. "You're Dr.
AVS
Cross, right?"
Media Demo.
I nodded. "Was the kitchen door open when you came?" I turned to the patrolman. He was white, baby-faced, growing a little
AVS
mustache to
Media
compensate
Demo.
for it. He was probably 23 or 24, real frightened that morning. I couldn't blame him. No sign of
AVS
forced entry.
Media Demo.
It was unlocked, sir." The patrolman was very nervous. "It's a real bad mess in there, sir. It's a family." One of the
AVS
patrolmen
Media
switched on a
Demo.
powerful milled aluminum flashlight, and we all peered inside the kitchen. There was a cheap Formica breakfast table with matching lime green
AVS
vinyl
Media
chairs.
Demo.
A black Bart Simpson clock was on one wall. It was the kind you see in the front windows of all the People's drugstores. The smells
AVS
of
Media
Lysol
Demo.
and burnt grease melded into something strange to the nose, though not entirely unpleasant. There were a lot worse smells in homicide cases.
AVS Media
Sampson
Demo.
and I hesitated, taking it all in, the way the murderer might have just a few hours earlier. "He was right here," I said.
AVS Media
"He came in
Demo.
through the kitchen. He was here, where we're standing." "Don't talk like that, Alex," Sampson said. "Sound like Gene
AVS
Dixon.
Media Demo.
Creep me out." No matter how many times you do this kind of thing, it never gets easier. You don't want to have to go inside.
AVS Media
You don't want to
Demo.
see any more horrible nightmares in your lifetime. "They're upstairs," the cop with the mustache said. He filled us in on who the victims were.
AVS Media
A
Demo.
family named Sanders, 2 women and a small boy. His partner, a short, well-built black man, hadn't said a word yet. His name was
AVS
Butchie
Media
Dykes.
Demo.
He was a sensitive young cop I'd seen around the station. The 4 of us entered the death house together. We each took a deep breath.
AVS Media Demo.
Sampson patted my shoulder. He knew that child homicide had me shook. The 3 bodies were upstairs in the front bedroom, just off the top of the
AVS
stairs.
Media Demo.
There was the mother, Jean Pooh Sanders, 32. Even in death, her face was haunting.
AVS
She had
Media
big brown
Demo.
eyes, high cheekbones, full lips that had already turned purplish. Her mouth was stretched open in a scream.
AVS
Pooh's
Media
daughter,
Demo.
Suzette Sanders, 14 years on this earth. She was just a young girl, but had been prettier than a mother. She wore a mauve ribbon in
AVS
her
Media
braided hair
Demo.
and a tiny nose earring to prove she was older than her years. Suzette was gagged with dark blue pantyhose. A baby
AVS
son,
Media Demo.
Gustav Sanders, 3 years old, was lying face up, and his little cheeks seemed stained with tears. He was wearing a pajama bag, like my
AVS
own kids
Media
wear.
Demo.
Just as Nana Mama had said, it was a bad part of what somebody had let become a bad city in this big, bad country
AVS
of ours.
Media Demo.
The mother and the daughter were bound to an imitation brass bedpost. Satin underwear, black and red mesh stockings, and flowery
AVS
bed sheets had
Media
been used to
Demo.
tie them up. I took out the pocket recorder I carry and began to put down my first observations. Homicide cases
AVS Media
H234,
Demo.
914 through 916. A mother, teenage daughter, little boy. The women have been slashed with something extremely sharp.
AVS
A straight
Media
razor,
Demo.
possibly. Their breasts have been cut off. The breasts are nowhere to be found. The pubic hair of the women has been shaved. There are
AVS
multiple
Media
stab
Demo.
wounds, what the pathologists call patterns of rage. There's a great deal of blood, fecal matter. I believe the 2 women, both
AVS
the mother and
Media
daughter, were
Demo.
prostitutes. I've seen them around. My voice was a low drone. I wondered if I'd be able to understand all the words later.
AVS Media
The
Demo.
little boy's body seems to have been casually tossed aside. Gustav Sanders has on hand-me-down pajamas that are covered with Care Bears.
AVS
He
Media
has a
Demo.
tiny incidental pile in the room. I couldn't help grieving as I looked down at the little boy. his sad, lifeless eyes staring up at me.
AVS Media Demo.
Everything was very noisy inside my head. My heart ached. Poor little Mustaf, whoever you were. I don't believe he wanted to kill the boy, I said to Samson. He or she. Or it. Samson shook his head. I vote for it.
AVS
It's a
Media
thing,
Demo.
Alex. The same thing that did Condon Terrace earlier this week. Chapter 3.
AVS Media Demo.
Since she had been 3 or 4 years old, Maggie Rose Dunn was always watched by people. At 9, she was
AVS
used to
Media
special
Demo.
attention, to strangers gawking at her as if she was Maggie Scissorhands or Girl Frankenstein. That morning, she was
AVS
being watched,
Media Demo.
but she didn't know it. This one time, Maggie Rose would have cared. This one time, it mattered very much.
AVS Media Demo.
Maggie Rose was at Washington Day School in Georgetown, where she was trying to blend in with the other 130 students. At that moment, they
AVS
were all
Media
singing
Demo.
enthusiastically at assembly. Blending in wasn't easy for Maggie Rose, even though she desperately wanted to. She was the
AVS
9-year-old
Media
daughter of
Demo.
Catherine Rose, after all. Maggie couldn't walk past a mall video store without seeing a picture of her mother. Her mother's movies seemed
AVS
to be on the
Media
tube
Demo.
about every other night. Her mom got nominated for Oscars more often than most actresses get mentioned in People magazine. Because of all that
AVS
stuff,
Media Demo.
Maggie Rose tried to disappear into the woodwork a lot. That morning, she had on a beat-up Fido-Dido sweatshirt with strategic
AVS
holes front
Media
and
Demo.
rear. She'd picked out grungy, wrinkled Guess jeans. She wore old pink Reebok sneakers, her trusty Dusties,
AVS
and
Media
Fido
Demo.
socklets picked out from the bottom of her closet. She purposely hadn't washed her long blonde hair before school. Her mom's eyes had
AVS
bugged
Media
when she
Demo.
spotted the get-up. She said, "Quadruple yuck," but she let Maggie go to school that way anyway. Her mom was
AVS
cool.
Media Demo.
She really understood the tough deal Maggie had to live with. The kids in the crowded assembly, 1st through 6th grade classes, were singing
AVS
Fast Car by
Media
Tracy
Demo.
Chapman. Before she played the folk rock song on the auditorium's gleaming black Steinway, Ms. Kaminsky had tried to explain the
AVS
message of
Media
it for
Demo.
everybody. This moving song by a young black woman from Massachusetts is about being dirt poor in the richest
AVS
country in the
Media
world.
Demo.
It's about being black in the 1990s. The petite, rail-thin music and visual arts teacher was always so
AVS
intense.
Media Demo.
She felt it was a good teacher's duty not only to inform, but to persuade, to mold the important young minds at the prestigious day school.
AVS Media
The
Demo.
kids liked Ms. Kaminsky, so they tried to imagine the plight of the poor and disadvantaged. Since the tuition at Washington Day was $12,000,
AVS Media
it took some
Demo.
imagination on their part. "You got a fast car," they sang along with Ms. K and her piano. "And I got a plan to get us
AVS
out of
Media
here."
Demo.
As Maggie sang Fast Car, she really tried to imagine what it would be like to be poor like that. She'd seen enough poor people sleeping in the
AVS
cold
Media
on Washington
Demo.
streets. If she concentrated, she could visualize terrible scenes around Georgetown and DuPont Circle, especially the men with
AVS
dirty
Media
rags who
Demo.
washed your windshield at every stoplight. Her mother always gave them $1, sometimes more. Some of the beggars recognized her mom and went
AVS
ape-man
Media
crazy.
Demo.
They smiled like their day had been made, and Catherine Rose always had something nice to say to them. "You got a fast
AVS
car,"
Media
Maggie
Demo.
Rose sang out. She felt like letting her voice really get up there. "But is it fast enough so we can fly away? We gotta make a
AVS
decision.
Media Demo.
We leave tonight or live and die this way." The song finished to loud applause and cheers from all the kids at assembly.
AVS
Ms.
Media
Kaminsky
Demo.
took a queer little bow at her piano. "Heavy duty," Michael Goldberg muttered. Michael was standing right next to Maggie.
AVS
He was her
Media
best friend in
Demo.
Washington, where she'd moved less than a year ago, coming from L.A. with her parents. Michael was being ironic, of course, as always.
AVS Media Demo.
That was his East Coast way of dealing with people who weren't as smart as he was, which meant just about everybody in the free world. Michael
AVS
Goldberg
Media
was a
Demo.
genuine brainiac, Maggie knew. He was a reader of everything and anything. A gonzo collector, a doer,
AVS
always
Media
funny,
Demo.
if he liked you. He'd been a blue baby, though, and he still wasn't big or very strong. That had gotten him the nickname
AVS
Shrimpy,
Media Demo.
which kind of brought Michael down off his brainiac pedestal. Maggie and Michael rode to school together most mornings. That morning, they'd come in a
AVS
real
Media
Secret
Demo.
Service town car. Michael's father was the Secretary of the Treasury, as in the Secretary of the Treasury.
AVS
Nobody was
Media
really
Demo.
just normal at Washington Day. Everybody was trying to blend in, one way or another. As the students filed out of morning assembly,
AVS Media
each of
Demo.
them was asked who was picking them up after school. Security was tremendously important at Washington Day. Mr. Devine, Maggie
AVS
started to tell
Media
the teacher
Demo.
monitor posted at the door from the auditorium. His name was Mr. Gestier, and he taught languages, which included French, Russian, and Chinese at the
AVS
school.
Media Demo.
He was nicknamed Le Prick. And Jolly Charlie Jakely, Michael Goldberg finished for her. Secret
AVS
Service Detail
Media
19 Lincoln Town Car, license number SC59, North Exit, Pelham Hall. They're assigned to moi because the
AVS
Colombian
Media
cartel has
Demo.
made death threats against my father. Au revoir, mon professeur. It was noted in the school log for December 21st.
AVS
M.
Media
Goldberg and
Demo.
M.R. Dunn, Secret Service pickup, North Exit, Pelham, at 3. Come on, Dweebo Dido.
AVS
Michael
Media
Goldberg
Demo.
poked Maggie Rose sharply in her ribcage. I got a fast car. And I got a plan to get us out of here. No wonder
AVS
she
Media
liked him,
Demo.
Maggie thought. Who else would call her a dweebo? Who else but Shrimpy Goldberg? As they walked out of the assembly hall, the
AVS
two friends
Media
were being
Demo.
watched. Neither of them noticed anything wrong, anything out of the ordinary. They weren't supposed to. That was the whole idea.
AVS Media
It
Demo.
was the master plan. Chapter 4. At 9 o'clock that morning,
AVS Media Demo.
Ms. Vivian Kim decided to recreate Watergate in her Washington Day school classroom. She would never forget it. Vivian
AVS
Kim
Media
was smart,
Demo.
pretty, and a stimulating American history teacher. Her class was one of the students' favorites. Twice a week, Ms. Kim
AVS
acted out a
Media
history
Demo.
skit. Sometimes she let the children prepare one. They got to be really good at it, and she could honestly say her class was never
AVS
boring.
Media Demo.
On this particular morning, Vivian Kim had chosen Watergate. In her third-grade class were Maggie Rose Dunn and Michael
AVS
Goldberg.
Media Demo.
The classroom was being watched. Vivian Kim alternately played General Haig, H.R. Haldeman, Henry
AVS
Kissinger,
Media
G.
Demo.
Gordon Liddy, President Nixon, John and Martha Mitchell, and John and Maureen Dean. She was a good mimic and did an
AVS
excellent job
Media
on
Demo.
Liddy, Nixon, General Haig, and especially the Mitchells and Mo Dean. During his annual State of the Union message,
AVS
President
Media
Nixon
Demo.
spoke to the entire nation on television, Ms. Kim told the children. Many people feel that he lied to us. When a high
AVS
government official
Media Demo.
lies, he commits a horrible crime. We've put our trust in that person based on his solemn word, his integrity.
AVS Media Demo.
Boo! A couple of kids in class participated in the lesson. Within reason, Vivian Kim encouraged this kind of involvement.
AVS Media
Boo
Demo.
is absolutely right, she said. Hiss, too. Anyway, at this moment in our history, Mr. Nixon stood
AVS
before the
Media
nation,
Demo.
before people like you and me. Vivian Kim arranged herself as if she were at a speaking podium. She began to do her
AVS Media
version of
Demo.
Richard Nixon for the class. Miss Kim made her face dark and gloomy. She shook her head from side to side.
AVS
I
Media
want
Demo.
you to know that I have no intention whatever of ever walking away from the job that the American people
AVS
elected me to
Media
do
Demo.
for the people of the United States. Vivian Kim paused on the actual words from Nixon's infamous speech.